Chapter 5205, Doing Good Deeds Without Leaving a Name. Yuan Ji was instantly enraged from embarrassment. Lonesome, you're courting death. Yuan Ji immediately stepped up his attack. Yun Chujiu secretly complained in her heart. Yuan Ji's cultivation was already higher than hers to begin with, and she could only rely on her movement techniques to avoid it. If this continued, she would definitely die. The only method she could use now was to let the Xiao Hanio curse her. However, this curse could only be used once a day. It was best if she did not use it. Therefore, she planned to think of another way. If she really could not, she would use this method again. What Yun Chujiu did not know was that at this moment, Goei Batsao was leaning on her boots to watch the show. When this fellow saw that Yun Chujiu was in a sorry state, it could not help but gloat. It deserved it. Who asked her not to let it out? However, it thought about it again. Actually, it was not because of this stupid girl. She was now a lonely little Buddha. Naturally, she could not release the spiritual beast. This fellow felt that the opportunity for Goei Batsao to make a contribution had come. However, it was now a weak chicken, so it had to find a good opportunity to make a move. After a few more rounds, Yun Chujiu really did not have the strength to resist. After throwing out the big sack, she ordered the little black bird to curse, and was ready to jump off the competition stage when Yuan Ji was staggering. Yun Chujiu saw Yuan Ji stumble and was about to jump off the competition stage, but she was stunned to see Yuan Ji's body fall off the competition stage with a whoosh. Everyone was stunned. What was going on? How did Yuan Ji fall off the stage? Even Yuan Ji himself did not know what was going on and was almost angered to death. He had just used Buddha's power to protect himself when he suddenly felt his legs go soft. What was even more strange was that a huge force came from behind him and he fell off the stage. What a ghost! Of course, he did not see a ghost. It was just Goei Bacao's trick. The moment Yun Chujiu threw out the big sack, Goei Batsao flew out from her boots. Because of the cover of the chili, no one noticed it. The guy took advantage of Yuan Ji's staggering and used all his strength to crash into his body, which caused him to fall off the stage. At this time, this guy had already sneakily flown back into Yun Chujiu's boots while everyone was still in a daze. He was holding on to his boots and was proud of himself. This guy sighed in his heart. Sigh, he was really too honorable. He never left his name behind when he did good deeds. At this time, the crowd was already boiling. Oh my God! Did you see that? Little Buddha Lonely had just said his harsh words, and this Yuan Ji rolled and crawled off the stage. Little Buddha Lonely must have used some kind of supernatural power. It's not necessarily that lonely little Buddha used some kind of supernatural power. Maybe Yuan Ji got his comeuppance. Anyway, there's no good ending for offending lonely little Buddha. Didn't Yuan Guang commit suicide before? You're right. Whoever goes against lonely little Buddha is courting death. Lonely little Buddha didn't want to go on the stage at first, but Yuan Ji kept shouting from above. He's really courting death. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujiu was also confused at this moment. What was going on? Could it be that Xiao Hanio's curse had leveled up? Or could it be that some passing immortal had helped her? But no matter what, the result was good. Since Yuan Ji had already fallen off the stage, she had won this competition. Goei Batsao, who was watching the show, was immediately unhappy. What passing immortal? This was all thanks to Goei Ba. Yun Chujiu felt the emotions of the strange grass in her dantian. She thought to herself, this Guai Chao is getting more and more shameless. What does this have to do with it? Chapter 5206 uses the Sanskrit mantra Goei Batsao could feel Yun Chujiu's thoughts. It really wanted to jump out of its boots and shout, it's it, it's it, it's it. However, for the sake of its future small treasury, for the sake of its future freedom, it decided to endure. Anyway, the gold would shine sooner or later. One day, this wretched girl would see the power of Go Wei Ba. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujo did not know that Go Wei Batsao had little Jiu in his heart. This fellow felt that he was in a good mood. Although she did not know how Yuan Ji had fallen, falling meant falling. She had actually picked up a victory for nothing. This fellow pressed his palms together and said to Yuan Ji, who was already livid with anger, Amitba. This penniless monk originally wanted to admit defeat, but I did not expect you to actually fall off the competition stage. In that case, the winner of this match will be this penniless monk. Sigh, this penniless monk doesn't want to win either, but the will of heaven is like this. This penniless monk is also very helpless. The onlookers immediately burst into laughter. They thought to themselves, this lonely little Buddha is really interesting. That Yuan Ji is probably going to die from anger. Yuan Ji was indeed very angry, but he had already fallen off the stage. This match was already lost. Just when everyone thought that Yuan Ji would return to the stands, he jumped onto the stage again. Yun Chujo was so scared that she quickly took a few steps back and said, Yuan Ji, what are you doing here? Don't tell me you don't want to admit your defeat. Yuan Ji snorted coldly. Although I lost the previous round, I will continue to challenge you in the next round. Why not? Yuan Ji felt that his loss just now was really cowardly and muddle-headed. Since that was the case, let's have another round. Yun Chujo frowned slightly. Since Yuan Ji was already on the stage, he would definitely not allow her to not accept the challenge or admit defeat directly. This Yuan Ji was really cunning. She thought for a moment and said, we'll talk about this round later. Master De Fong, please announce the results of the previous round first so that there won't be any disputes. Master De Fong saw that Yuan Ji and the bitter Zen sect did not have any objections. The main reason was that it was useless to object. After all, Yuan Ji had indeed fallen off the stage. Master De Fong immediately announced, in the 9th round, Zen sect lone wins. In the 2nd round, the score is 5-4, and the bitter Zen sect leads by 1 round. Yuan Ji saw that Master De Fong had finished his announcement and immediately released the blue Buddha lotus. Clearly, he wanted to gain the upper hand. As Yun Chujo dodged, she secretly complained in her heart. Xiao Hanio's curse had already been used, and she had no way now. Could it be that she could only give herself away? Yun Chujo suddenly had an idea. She still had a skill that worked sometimes but did not. That was the ghost cry wolf howl kill. Ah, no, Fan Yin kill. Although this guy had no confidence in this skill, he could only try his best now. Therefore, this guy took out a piece of jade glass Bodhi leaf and started to play. This guy originally wanted to play the little cabbage, but he felt that it was a little inappropriate, so he decided to play a song to show off. Yuan Ji saw that the few people that Yun Chujo was hiding from were in a sorry state, and actually still had the mood to play the song. He felt that she was most likely crazy. Master Liao's eyes lit up. That's right, this little girl knew how to kill with Sanskrit. If she could display her power, it would be no problem to take down this Yuan Ji. However, very quickly, Master Liao realized that he was overthinking. Because Yun Chuji's tune was very pleasant to hear, but it didn't have the slightest bit of offensive power. Moreover, because she was distracted by playing the tune, she was almost injured by Yuan Ji's Buddha lotus a few times. Yuan Ji's face was full of disdain. In his heart, he was sure that Yun Chujo already had no strength to resist. He could kill her very quickly. Yun Chujo was able to last for such a long time without using any Buddhist power. This was already beyond Yuan Ji's expectations, but it did not matter. He could kill her very soon anyway. Yun Chujo also knew this. She was so angry that she directly ate the jade glass Bodhi leaf in her mouth. Since she could not blow out the Sanskrit sound, she might as well eat it. Yuan Ji saw that Yun Chujo actually ate the jade glass Bodhi leaf in her hand. He couldn't help but be stunned. Wasn't this loan too wasteful? That was the jade glass Bodhi leaf in his hand. Yun Chujo took out another jade glass Bodhi leaf. She didn't care whether it could understand or not. She muttered in a low voice, "If you can't be of any use, I'll eat you too." Pandas novel. Calm however, when Yun Chujo played the tune again, Yuan Ji felt that his spiritual sense was a little absent-minded. Although he was not in a daze, his movements were clearly much slower. Yun Chujia's eyes lit up when she saw this and she started to play even more enthusiastically. Yun Chujo originally planned to take this opportunity to jump off the competition stage and admit defeat. However, when she saw that Yuan Ji's movements were getting slower and slower, she changed her mind and decided to win this round. This guy was playing the tune, but his figure turned behind Yuan Ji like a ghost. She did not realize that there was a trace of treachery in Yuan Ji's eyes. He was indeed affected by Yun Chujia's tune, but his speed was not so slow. He did it on purpose. He also had the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. He was determined. Once Yun Chujo turned behind him and was ready to attack, he would use the King of Hell's Storm Needle. At that time, he would definitely be able to take her life. Yun Chujo was completely unaware of this. At this time, she had already turned behind Yuan Ji and raised her right arm to slap Yuan Ji. "I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Yuan Ji dodged Yun Chujia's attack and then wanted to activate the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. However, at this moment, his right leg was hit by a huge force and he fell off the stage again. He fell on his back. What was even more tragic was that when he was hit, he had already activated the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. Because of this collision, the cylinder was facing him and several arrows hit his chest. The King of Hell's Torrential Rain Needle was extremely powerful, not to mention that it was so close to him. Yuan Ji did not even have the time to let out a scream before he died. Everyone looked at Yuan Ji, who had shot himself into a hedgehog. They were all dumbfounded. Could it be that Yuan Ji had committed suicide? Could it be that he had also offended the Buddha, so he was punished by the Buddha, just like Yuan Guang? If that was not the case, how could he explain the current situation? Yun Chujo was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. She knew that Yuan Ji must have wanted to ambush her, but she did not know what had caused the current situation. If that was not the case, although she might have avoided her vital points, she would have been seriously injured and her identity might have been exposed. She was really too careless. The main reason was that she had witnessed the power of the Fan Yin kill before, so she did not suspect that Yuan Ji was faking it. It seemed that she had to be more cautious in the future. However, how did Yuan Ji fall? The first time was a coincidence, but the second time could not be a coincidence. Who had helped her? After a dead silence, the crowd exploded again. "How is it? I told you little Buddha Lonesome couldn't be offended, right?" Yuan Guang from before smashed his own head into pieces, and this Yuan Ji is even more miserable. He directly shot himself into a hedgehog. That makes sense. What is little Buddha Lonesome's identity? These people actually don't know what's good for them and insist on competing with little Buddha Lonesome. Lonely Buddha said don't want to go on stage, they have to let him go on stage. Well, go on stage. The other Lonely Buddha has offered to admit defeat, they actually don't agree. This is not a suicide, what? Yes, the lonely little Buddha is so kind-hearted. He gave them many chances, but they didn't know how to cherish them. In the end, they died. They deserved it. Hei Shinjo, who was still in a daze on the competition stage, heard the discussions of the crowd. She felt that the lotus fruit from yesterday was indeed not wasted. Look at how many people were eating melons. Well said, well said, well said. Master Xuanji of the Bitter Zen sect had already arrived in front of Yuan Jia's body. Because he was far away, and Yun Chujia's position blocked his vision, he had no idea why Yuan Ji suddenly fell off the stage, nor did he know why Yuan Jia's King of Hell's Storm Needle was shot at him. Master Xuanji carefully examined Yuan Jia's body, but he did not find any flaws. When the furtive Gowei Butsao saw this, it was pleased with itself. No matter how the old thing examined it, it could not find anything on it. Sigh. How could it be so kind? In fact, it could have made the stinky girl suffer a little so that she would not scold it all the time. However, at that moment, it couldn't help but attack. It was simply the kindest grass in the world. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Comet was simply an example of returning good for evil. In the future, when it could speak, it would definitely make the stinky girl shed tears of gratitude towards it. If it wasn't for Go Weiba, she would have died countless times. This fellow selectively forgot that he had almost killed Yun Chujio several times before. He was immersed in the setting of the best grass, and he was so touched that he couldn't even speak. Master Xuanji only had one true disciple, Yuan Ji. Now that Yuan Ji was dead, one could imagine how angry and sad he was. However, Yuan Ji had shot himself to death. Even if he wanted to avenge his disciple, he couldn't blame Yun Chujio. Moreover, Yuan Ji was the one who insisted on competing with Yun Chujio. Even so, Master Xuanji blamed Yuan Ji's death on Yun Chujio. He looked at Yun Chujio with a bone-chilling gaze. Panda's novel Moreover, Master Liaowu wasn't dead. He wouldn't just sit and watch. She looked at Master Defang and said lightly, Master Defang, please announce the result of this round. Master Defang only had to force himself to announce in front of Master Xuanzi's cold eyes, the 10th round, Zen Sect Lonesome wins. The total score of the second round is 5-5. Yun Chujio heard Master Fang announce the results. She originally wanted to jump off the competition stage and return to her seat, but Master Xuanji was below. This fellow was afraid of being tortured to death, so he stood on the stage and gave Master Liaowu a look, asking him to send Master Xuanji away or come to pick her up. Master Liaowu understood, and just as he got up to pretend to comfort Master Xuanji, he did not expect someone from the bitter Zen sect to jump onto the competition stage. Yun Chujio frowned slightly when she saw the person. The person standing in front of her was a middle-aged monk. He did not look good, which was originally nothing, but Yun Chujio had a photographic memory. He was not in the bitter Zen sect's lineup yesterday. Could it be that this person was originally the hidden strength of the bitter Zen sect, so he showed up today in order to ensure victory? At this moment, the person said, "This penniless monk, Yuan Kong, let us compete in this round." Yun Chujio's heart sank. No wonder that Xianji had been lingering under the competition stage. He must have wanted to stop her from leaving the stage. Now, since she was on the competition stage, Yuan Kong would not let her leave. Moreover, if she had admitted defeat earlier, she would have admitted defeat. But now the score was 5-5. If she admitted defeat, the people of Zen sect would feel it was a pity even if they did not say it. The third round was a competition of array formations. It was said that the bitter Zen sect had a very powerful array formation, so it was best to end the competition in the second round. However, she had won the previous 2 rounds because of dog shit and luck. This round sky was not friendly, and she could not use her spiritual power, so the risk was a bit high. Before Yun Chujio could come to a conclusion, Yuan Kong directly slapped Yun Chujio's face. Yun Chujio quickly dodged to the side and shouted, "The competition hasn't started yet, you." Before Yun Chujio finished her sentence, Yuan Kong's second palm had already arrived, and at the same time, he released the blue Buddha lotus. Yun Chujio's heart sank. Not only was Yuan Kong's movement technique very fast, but his speed of condensing the Buddha lotus was much faster than Yuan Ji's. This meant that his cultivation was much higher than Yuan Ji's. If she didn't think of a way as soon as possible, her little life would probably end here. She really had no choice but to use the same trick again. She threw the chili noodles and talisman seals, but Yuan Kong was already prepared. He used Buddha power to protect his body, so the chili noodles were completely useless. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Comas for the talisman seals, he must have a spirit tool on him, so he couldn't use them at all. Yun Chujio was really at her wit's end. She was careless and was shot in the right shoulder by an arrow formed from a Buddha lotus petal. In an instant, blood dyed the monk's robe red. There were waves of exclamations coming from below the stage. The onlookers stared with their eyes wide open, but their mouths were not idle. Oh no. Little Buddha Lone Moon is actually injured. It seems that Yuan Kong is not easy to deal with. Panda's novel. Calm, yes. Little Buddha Lone Moon, quickly use your golden Buddha lotus to kill him. We all support you. Yun Chujo smiled bitterly in her heart. She could not even form the most ordinary black lotus, let alone the golden lotus. If she really could not do it, she could only take the risk of exposing herself and deal with Yuan Kong. After all, nothing was more important than her life. She was not that stupid. The Gowei Butsao and Yun Chujia's boots wanted to help, but it could not find a suitable opportunity. Moreover, it had used up a lot of spiritual power to deal with Yuan Ji previously. Now, it was not enough. Just as Yun Chujo was about to use the purple needle, several gray shadows jumped onto the competition stage and pounced towards Yuan Kong. In an instant, Yuan Kong cried out in pain. At this time, Yun Chujo also saw the gray shadows clearly. It was actually dozens of inch rats. Although the attack power of the inch rats was very ordinary, their speed was very fast. Moreover, their claws and teeth were very sharp. Yuan Kong's face was now a bloody mess, and even his nose and ears had been bitten off by the inch rats. Yun Chujo did not have time to think too much. She quickly took out a sword from her storage ring and stabbed it at Yuan Kong. As the saying goes, take his life while he was sick. She was not a gentleman. Yuan Kong's eyes were also scratched by the inch rats. His vision was blurry. Moreover, his attention was on the inch rats, so Yun Chujia's sword cut off his head. The process was so smooth that Yun Chujo herself could not believe it. In fact, this was because Gowei Butsao pushed Yuan Kong's back, which was basically equivalent to him bumping into Yun Chujia's sword. Gowei Butsao was very small, and the stage was in a mess, so no one noticed it at all. However, one of the hamsters saw it and squeaked a few times. However, no one understood it. Yun Chujo saw that Yuan Kong was already dead, and she finally heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at the inch rats gratefully. A few inch rats were severely injured by Yuan Kong, so Yun Chujo quickly took out pills and fed them. She had saved an inch rat from Yuan Qing during the scripture debate, so it must have been the little thing that summoned its companions to save her. As expected, Yun Chujo found the inch rat in the group of rats. The little thing's bright black eyes were especially lively. Perhaps it was the king of the rats. However, she did not know how it had fallen into Yuan Qing's hands. Yun Chujo said gratefully to the inch rat, "Thank you very much. I'll give these pills to you." Yun Chujo took out a lot of pills and handed them to the inch rat. The inch rat immediately kept the pills into its storage space. Then, it called the other inch rats and ran away as fast as it could. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Oh my God! They had only read about the story of a spirit beast returning a favor in the storybook. They didn't expect that they would actually see a real-life version today. The little lonely Buddha was indeed the little lonely Buddha. He was always able to turn misfortune into good fortune in times of danger. He was really amazing. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come on the bitter Zen sect's side, there was a cloud of gloom and misery. Master Xuanzi's face was terrifyingly gloomy. This Yuan Kong was the disciple of the supreme elder of the bitter Zen sect and had specially rushed over to help. But now, he had directly lost his life. Originally, Yuan Kong already had the absolute advantage and would soon be able to kill that loneliness. He did not expect to be disturbed by a group of inch rats. Thinking of the inch rats, Master Xuanji gave Yuan Qing a vicious glance. Yuan Qing was so frightened by this cold look that he almost peed. He felt that his life was going to be over. If he had known earlier, he would not have taken the initiative to go on stage yesterday. If he had known earlier, he would not have been idle and captured that inch rat. The worst mistake was that because he wanted to give that inch rat away, he did not establish a contract with that inch rat. Otherwise, there would not have been this trouble. In stark contrast to the bitter Zen sect, the Zen sect members were overjoyed. Ha! They didn't expect that they would win. The first round of scripture debate and the second round of Buddhist power competition were both won by the Zen sect. There was no need to compete in the third round of array formation. It was really a cause for celebration. Panda's novel. Kamyun Chujyo was also very happy. 2 out of 3 wins. The Zen sect had already obtained 2 victories, which meant that there was no need for the third round of competition. Previously, Master Liaowu had promised her that as long as she helped the Zen sect to win the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly, he would tell her who was behind the imprisonment of her parents. It was great. Yun Chujio looked at Master Dafang with a smile, wanting to urge him to announce the final result of the competition. But unexpectedly, Master Xuanji said in a deep voice, "This round can't be counted. If it weren't for those inch rats, the winner of this round should be Yuan Kong." Master Liaowu immediately retorted, "Master Xuanji, what you said is wrong. There are no ifs in this world. Yuan Kong was attacked by the inch rats. It can only be said that he was unlucky. So this round is won by lone." Master Xuanji sneered, "If the owner of the inch rats is loneliness, I have nothing to say. After all, they can show their abilities on the competition stage." However, those inch rats grew wild in Mount Buddha, so this round could not be counted at all. "Master Liaowu, don't you know whether loneliness won by his own ability or not? I didn't expect that your Zen sect has fallen to such a state." Master Liaowu was unwilling to be outdone. "There is cause and effect. Why did those crotch rats help Lonesome? Wasn't it because your disciple wanted to kill one of the crotch rats? So this is what your Zen sect deserves. Moreover, everything that happened on the competition stage should be counted as part of the competition. You can only admit your bad luck. No matter what, your Zen sect has already lost this 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly. If anything happens in the future, don't blame us for being impolite." The two of them argued with each other for quite a while, but they did not come to a conclusion. At this time, Master Defang said, "Amitba, how about we call this round a draw? Let's call this round a draw between the Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect. Let's directly enter the third round of the competition." Master Liaowu naturally wouldn't accept it. They had already won, so why would they compete in the third round? Moreover, he had heard that the bitter Zen sect had a powerful array formation. If they were to compete in the third round, their Zen sect might not be able to win. Master Xuanzi's eyes flashed, he changed the topic and said, "Our bitter Zen sect has a lot of scriptures. Many of them are ancient Buddhist scriptures. After all, our two sects have the same origin. If the time is right, our bitter Zen sect is willing to give some to the Zen sect as a gift. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Master Liaowu was not a fool, so he naturally understood Master Xuanzi's underlying meaning. If he agreed that this round was a draw, then the bitter Zen sect would give some ancient Buddhist scriptures to the Zen sect. This condition could be said to have hit Master Liaowa's heart. Previously, the ancestor of the Lan family had relied on a Buddhist scripture to obtain the qualification to cultivate in the tranquil spring, which showed how much the Zen sect valued the ancient Buddhist scriptures. Master Liaowu thought for a moment and asked, "How many scrolls is Master Xuanji prepared to gift?" 20 scrolls, Master Xuanji said. Panda's novel. Master Liaowu was very conflicted. The attraction of 20 ancient Buddhist scriptures was too great. But once he agreed, if he lost the third round of the array competition, wouldn't the gains outweigh the losses? Just as Master Liaowu was hesitating, Master Xuanji said, "Since it's a competition, we have to convince both sides. If the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly ends like this, our bitter Zen sect won't accept it. Then, our previous promise won't count." The subtext of his words was that if this round counted as their loss, they would refuse to admit their defeat. They continued to send troops to attack the Zen sect. Master Liaowu thought that if this was the case, they might as well ask for these 20 volumes of ancient Buddhist scriptures. Even if they lost in the third round of the array competition, the big score would only be 1-1. There was still room for reconciliation. Moreover, didn't he still have his precious disciple? Perhaps he could win in the third round. Thinking of this, Master Liaowu said, "Do you have the ancient Buddhist scriptures with you?" Hearing this, Master Xuanji knew that Master Liaowu had agreed, so he was quite happy. He directly passed the 20 ancient Buddhist scriptures to Master Liaowu. Master Liaowu looked through them and saw that there were no mistakes, so he said, "Okay, then the second round will be a draw between us." Yun Chujiu heard their conversation clearly. She blinked her eyes and calculated in her heart. If the Zen sect lost in the end, she would force Master Liaowu to reveal the mastermind. Panda's novel. Calm now that the matter had come to an end, He Xinjiu no longer needed to stand on the stage foolishly. She jumped off the stage. However, this fellow was afraid that Master Xuanji would torture her to death, so he stood behind Master Liaowu as soon as he got off the stage. Now that Master Liaowu found her pleasing to the eye, he chatted with Master Xuanji for a while and then brought Yun Chujiu back to his own stand. Seeing that both sides had finished their discussion, Master Defang immediately announced, "The second round of the Buddhist power competition will be a draw. Now, the third round of the array competition will begin." The German master then explained the rules of the array competition. It was very simple. The Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect had about a day and a night to set up the array. Then, both sides would send 10 people into the array, and the first to break the array would win. The space of the competition stage was limited, so the array was set up on a piece of empty land next to it. After the German master explained the rules of the competition, he announced that both sides could set up the array. The next day, the array was set up. Because they were afraid of leaking the secret, both sides had opened the isolation array formation when they set up the array formation. Seeing that there was nothing to see, the spectators dispersed one after another. Yun Chujiu did not know how to set up the array formation. Logically speaking, this fellow should have gone back to Buddha temple to rest. However, this fellow was afraid that the people of the bitter Zen sect would secretly kill her, so he stayed behind. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm, however, this fellow took out an all-purpose small tent and hid inside it to read a script. The way of civil and martial arts was to relax and relax. The tension in her heart these 2 days was too tight, so she had to relax. Just when Yun Chujiu was engrossed in reading, Ji Su limped in. His buttocks had been injured by Yuan Guang using the King of Hell's storm needle. Although he was much better, his movements were too big, so it still hurt a little. "Junior brother Lonesome, what are you reading? Is it Buddhist scriptures?" Ji Su asked curiously when he saw that Yun Chujiu was reading with great interest. Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes and raised the book in her hand. On the cover of the book was written, "The past events that I had to tell my snake demon husband." Jesus' face immediately turned red. He did not care about the pain in his buttocks anymore. He took a few steps back and stammered, You, how can you read this kind of book? Ba, it's a sin, a sin." He Xinjiu glanced at him and said in surprise, "Senior brother Ji Su, what do you mean by this? What's wrong with this kind of book?" Jesus' face turned even redder. This book is really indecent. Senior brother Ji Su, this is your fault. As the saying goes, wine and meat go through the intestines. Buddha keeps it in his heart. As long as he has Buddha in his heart, what does it matter if he reads these books? Yun Chujiu said with a chuckle. Ji Su knew that Yun Chujiu was trying to twist the truth. He pointed at Yun Chujiu with trembling fingers and did not speak for a long time. Yun Chujiu was originally a female devil in his heart. However, after the events of the past 2 days, he felt that he was wrong. In fact, Benefactor Yun was still very kind. However, at this moment, he felt that he was very wrong. Not only was she a female devil, she was also a lecherous female devil. Yun Chujiu saw that Ji Su was blushing and did not say anything. She ignored him and continued to read the script with great interest. The quality of the script was not bad. Not only was it vividly described, but there were also illustrations. TSK, she really understood her thoughts. Ji-soo saw that Yoon Choo-jo was still acting on her own and did not pay attention to him. He could only turn around and leave the tent. He had just gone out to meet Sect Master Wu and Master Lei. When the two of them saw Ji-soo's flushed face, they couldn't help but wonder. Master Lei asked, Ji-soo, what happened? Ji-soo thought about it and still didn't tell the truth. No matter what, Benefactor Yoon was also a woman. If this matter were to be spread out, it wouldn't be good for her. Thus, he said, Master, it's nothing. It's just that the tent is a little stuffy and hot. I came out to get some fresh air. Ji-soo was different from before. He didn't have any burden when it came to lying, so Master Lei didn't see any flaws. Immediately, he entered the tent with Master Liaowu. Ji-soo thought for a while and also hobbled in. Ji-soo went in to take a look. He saw that Yoon Choo-jo had already stood up, but the book was placed on the small table next to it. Ji-soo was humble. Was this female devil stupid? Why don't you put the book away? If Master and the sect master saw this, she wouldn't have a good ending. Ji-soo thought of this and coughed twice. Then, he gave Yoon Choo-jo a look and told her to put the book away quickly. Yoon Choo-jo blinked her eyes. Senior brother Ji-soo, is your eye cramping? Ji-soo, I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Kampanda's novel. Ji-soo thought for a moment. No matter what, this female devil had saved him before. He couldn't just sit by and do nothing. Thus, while Master Liaowu and Yoon Choo-jo were talking, he moved to the side of the small table, trying to use his body to cover the books on the table. However, just as he moved to the side of the table, he heard Master Liaowu say, Lone, what book were you reading just now? I was studying the Lotus Sutra just now, Yoon Choo-jo said with a smile. Ji-soo thought, Pooey. You really dare to say it? Lotus Sutra. It was clearly some slave, some snake demon husband, and some past events in bed. Master Liaowu nodded his head in gratification. That's great. Ji-soo, pass the scripture to me, and I'll explain it to Master Liaowu. Ji-soo's head buzzed, and he muttered, Sect Master, you're familiar with scripture, so you shouldn't need to use Buddhist scriptures to teach, right? Master Liaowu, Master Lei wished he could strangle his stupid disciple to death. If he asked you to take the scripture, then you should just take it, why would there be so much nonsense? Could it be that because his buttocks were injured, his brain was not functioning properly? Master Lei was not angry. He smiled faintly and said, although I can recite the Lotus Flower Sutra silently, it is still more convenient to take the scripture and explain it. Jesus' face turned even redder, but he did not move. He thought to himself, how about he destroy the corpse and destroy the evidence? Master Lei saw that Ji-soo still did not move and glared at him. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Yoon Choo-jo pick up the book on the table and handed it to Master Liaowu. Master, here you are. Ji-soo was humbled. It was over. Was this female devil stupid? She actually gave the immoral book to the sect leader. This time, the sect leader would definitely fly into a rage. It would definitely not end well for her. She was really courting death. Panda's novel. Ji-soo couldn't bear to look at it anymore. The sect master was the most serious and rigid, he had to scold the female devil until she was full of blood. However, the storm that he had imagined didn't come. Master Liaowu had already begun to explain the Buddhist scriptures to Yoon Choo-jo. Ji-soo gathered his courage and looked at it. He was instantly dumbfounded. What Master Liaowu was holding in his hand was clearly the Lotus Flower Sutra. It wasn't the book that was indecent at all. Ji-soo caught a glimpse of Yoon Choo-jo's mischievous gaze and immediately understood. This demoness must have realized that someone was coming, so she switched the book. To think that he was so worried. It turned out that the emperor was not in a hurry and the eunuch was in a hurry. Master Liaowu explained a section of Buddhist scriptures and then changed the topic. Lone, do you have any research on formations? Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. 7 orifices have been opened and 6 orifices have been opened. Ji Su heard this and thought, oh my, 7 apertures connected to 6 apertures? From what she said, it seemed that she knew a lot about formations. However, he also felt the meaning of her words. 7 apertures connected to 6 apertures, didn't that mean that she didn't know anything? This female devil couldn't speak properly either. If her brain wasn't working properly, she wouldn't be able to understand what she was trying to say. Master Liaowu naturally understood. Although he was a little disappointed, he thought that he might not lose the 3rd round. After all, their Zen sect Sky Net Demon subduing formation wasn't that easy to crack. Master Liaowu remembered the matter of today's competition and asked, why did Yuan Ji fall from the competition stage twice? What kind of supernatural power is this? Yun Chujo spread her hands. Master, I am also puzzled. I don't know which passing immortal helped me. Maybe Buddha saw that I was so kind and came to his senses. Master Liaowu chatted for a while more, then left with Master Lei. Ji Su gave Yun Chujo a warning look and also left. Yun Chujo pouted and continued to take out her notebook. The Gowei Butsao in Yun Chuji's boots was very, very dim now. This guy felt too damn aggrieved. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. It was clearly its great achievements, but no one knew that it was not so easy to be a nameless hero. However, the most important thing now was to let the little girl let it out again so that it could save up some money, or else it would disappear. Thus, the strange grass in the Dantian began to play cute with Guai Chao. Yun Chujo thought that it wanted to eat pills again, so she swallowed 2 bottles of pills. However, when she saw that it was still playing cute with Guai Chao, she understood that it wanted to come out and play. Yun Chujo was in a good mood today, so she followed Guai Chao's intention and let it out. Gowei Butsao turned itself into a foot long and crawled beside Yun Chujo. It poked its head out and read the script with Yun Chujo. Although it could only read a limited number of words, there were illustrations in the script, so it could still understand. Seeing the colored illustrations, this guy even covered its ears with grass leaves, looking ashamed. Yun Chujo, you fucking grass know how to be shy. Speaking of which, does this grass differentiate between male and female? Since this guy didn't understand, he asked the Gowei Butsao lying next to him, Gowei Butsao, are you male or female? Gowei Butsao was immediately unhappy. What did he mean by male and female? He said it so inelegantly, it was clearly male and female. This guy stood up and patted his stem with grass leaves, indicating that he was so strong that he was naturally male. Yun Chujo finally understood what he meant and nodded, oh, so it's a male. Yun Chujo thought for a while and realized that her spiritual pets were all male. Only Xiao Hei's Peach Blossom and Rolling Pin were female. By the way, she didn't know if Xiao Mogu was a male or a female. Yun Chujo immediately took out Xiao Mogu and asked, Xiao Mogu, are you a baby boy or a baby girl? Gowei Butsao, it could feel the little girl's malicious intentions towards it. She asked it if it was a male or a female, and now she asked Xiao Mogu if it was a baby boy or a baby girl. Who wasn't a baby? He was really bullying the grass. Xiao Mogu's mushroom cap was slightly pink. He used his spiritual sense to say, Master, I am a female baby. Xiao Mogu looked at Xiao Mogu who had turned pink. The leaves of the grass trembled. This Xiao Mogu was much stronger than the other idiots. Spiritual plants were cuter than demon beasts. For example, it was Xiao Mogu's dog tail. And Xiao Mogu in front of Gowei Ba. Yun Chujo saw Gowei Butsao sneakily sizing up Xiao Mogu and teased, Gowei Butsao, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to Xiao Mogu? Gowei Butsao immediately jumped up as if someone had stepped on a cat's tail. It desperately waved its leaves to show its denial. Yun Chujo originally wanted to tease it, but when she saw how excited it was, the corner of her mouth curled up. Could this Go Weiba really have a lustful heart? No wonder she was embarrassed when she read the script. It turned out to be a grass with color in its heart. Guai Chao sensed Yun Chujia's thoughts and was both embarrassed and angry. However, it could not speak and could only desperately wave its leaves. Xiao Mogu looked curiously at Go Weibatsao. There was no record of Guai Chao in its inheritance. What the hell was this? Go Weibatsao misunderstood and thought that Xiao Mogu was peeping at it. Immediately, the anger in its heart dissipated a little and it subconsciously straightened its stem. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm Xiao Mogu thought to itself, a peerless grass hero like Xiao Mogu was naturally very popular with young girls. It was normal for Xiao Mogu to like Xiao Mogu, but Xiao Mogu would not easily fall for such a high-end and high-class grass. It would be a waste for Xiao Mogu to like Xiao Mogu. Although Yun Chujo did not know what Go Weibatsao was thinking, she could feel that Xiao Mogu was very smug. She pursed her lips. She really did not know where Xiao Mogu's confidence came from. Could it be because of its name? Panda's novel. Calm Go Weibatsao, you're ruthless. The man and the grass continued to have their own thoughts. Looking at the storybook, Go Weibatsao hit a small trick. After a while, it pretended to disappear. Then, it pretended to be cute and asked Yun Chujo to let it out again. Yun Chujo thought it would be fun to have Go Weibatsao to read the script with it, so she let it out again. After repeating this a few times, Go Weibatsao had accumulated a lot of money and was about to fly up happily. Compared to Yun Chujia's leisurely time, the Zen sect people outside had been busy setting up the array formation. The night passed quickly. When it was time, the Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect opened the isolation array formation. At this time, the onlookers had arrived. They craned their necks to watch. This was the first time many of them had seen a competition of array formations. They were very curious. The people of the Bitter Zen sect looked somewhat pleased with themselves. They had found this Disho lotus formation by accident in the library. It was very exquisite. The people of the Zen sect who entered would lose their lives, not to mention breaking the array. There was no restriction on seniority in this round of competition. Disciples of both sects were allowed to participate. The Zen sect had already chosen their candidates yesterday. They were led by a Master Lei, 4 elders, and 5 disciples of the silent generation. Among them was the newly made lonely little Buddha. Chapter 52-16 Disho Lotus Formation. Although Yun Chujo said that she knew nothing about formations, Master Liao Wu still arranged for her to enter the formation with him. After all, this little girl was full of bad ideas. She might be useful. In fact, even if Master Liao Wu didn't arrange for Yun Chujo to enter the formation, she still had to enter the formation. That was because she had the sharp weapon to break the formation, the black bead. Originally, she was still worried about the 3rd round of the array competition. However, after hearing the rules from Master Defang yesterday, her worries were immediately thrown to the back of her mind. Otherwise, this fellow wouldn't be in the mood to read the script. Wasn't it just breaking the array? That was simple. She didn't need to know the array at all, nor did she need to find the door of life and death. She just needed to find the location of the array disk and destroy it immediately. When the time came, Yun Chujo followed a Master Lei and the others into the Disho lotus formation set up by the Bitter Zen sect. Master Xuanzi's lips curled into a cold smile. The Disho lotus formation was different from ordinary arrays. The Sanskrit language derived from it could attack one's spiritual sense. They had no way to break the formation, let alone break it. Even if they could break the formation, their spiritual sense would be greatly damaged. None of the 10 people who entered would be able to think properly. As it was a competition of formations, when the formation was set up, it was specially arranged accordingly. Therefore, the onlookers could see the situation inside the formation, but the people inside the formation could not see the situation outside. At this moment, both formations were activated at the same time. In the eyes of outsiders, those people were just standing on the same spot, but the people inside the formation saw a completely different scene. The surroundings were foggy, and one could only barely see his companions around him. From a distance, one could not see anything. Master Li frowned. In the Zen sect, his attainments in formations were the highest, but he had no clue about the formations in front of him. Everyone, don't scatter. Use your Buddhist power to protect yourselves and be on high alert. Hearing this, everyone immediately followed his instructions. Only Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and squeezed into the middle of the crowd. Only then did everyone remember that this guy didn't have Buddha energy, and he couldn't reveal his spiritual power either. However, it wasn't a problem for everyone to protect her, so no one said anything. At this time, arrows were shot out from the surroundings, and everyone took turns to attack with Buddha lotuses, which was quite easy. A disciple of the Ji generation said, "It seems that this so-called Disha lotus formation is just so. It's far inferior to our Zen sect's sky net demon subduing formation." As soon as he finished speaking, Sanskrit formed by countless Buddhist powers suddenly gushed out from all directions. Everyone quickly struck with the lotus. Although most of the Buddhist power Sanskrit was scattered, one of the Sanskrit struck the disciple who had spoken earlier. The disciple screamed in pain, "Ah! A spiritual attack. This Sanskrit is actually a spiritual attack." Hearing that, everyone's expression changed drastically. No wonder the bitter Zen sect bragged about how powerful their array formation was. It turned out that the Disha lotus array could actually carry out spiritual attacks. It should be known that an array formation that could use spiritual power or Buddhist power to attack was not rare, but an array formation that could carry out spiritual attacks was as rare as a phoenix feather or a qilin horn, not to mention that this array formation was so sophisticated. Master Lei's heart could not help but sink. If they could not break out of the formation as soon as possible, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, where was the life gate of the Disha lotus formation? Master Li gritted his teeth and chose a place that he thought was the life gate. However, after everyone walked over, they were once again attacked by the Sanskrit language. Fortunately, everyone had experienced this time, so no one was injured. Just as everyone was about to heave a sigh of relief, countless Sanskrit words surged toward them once again, and there were even more of them than before. The frequency of the Sanskrit attacks became faster and faster, and fine beads of sweat began to appear on everyone's foreheads. If this continued, they would sooner or later exhaust their Buddha energy. When the spectators outside the array formation saw the situation inside, their expressions were all different. The people of the bitter Zen sect were naturally very proud. In this round of array competition, their bitter Zen sect would definitely win. Master Liaowu was deeply worried. He didn't expect that this Disha lotus array could actually attack the spiritual sense. No wonder Xianzhi looked so confident. As time went on, their spiritual sense would definitely be damaged. This would be very disadvantageous for their future cultivation. He gritted his teeth. If he really couldn't do it, he could only admit defeat. At this moment, inside the Disha lotus formation, the expressions of Master Li and the others became more and more serious. A few of the silent generation disciples had used up too much of their Buddha energy, and their faces turned pale. Of course, there were also some who were relaxed, such as Hei Xinjiu. This fellow stood in the middle of everyone. 9 people were protecting one of her, so the protection was airtight. This fellow seemed to be daydreaming, and no one knew what she was thinking. Seeing her like this, Master Lei's face could not help but stiffen. What kind of situation was this? This fellow actually still had the mood to be in a daze. Wasn't she afraid of dying in this array? A disciple of the Jai generation beside Yun Chujio pushed Yun Chujio. "Lonesome, wake up. This is breaking the array." Only then did Yun Chujio come back to her senses. The reason why this fellow was absent-minded just now was because he remembered something that she had almost forgotten. When she had met that old monk, Wang Su, at the fallen god abyss, that old monk had not been on the right track in the beginning. He had used some Buddha light golden lotus array to deal with her, and had also converted Buddha energy into Sanskrit to attack her spiritual sense. Panda's novel, that Buddha Light Golden Lotus Array was definitely an incredible thing. If she used this thing to negotiate with Master Liaowu, it might be very convenient to save her parents. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come now, she was pushed by that disciple of the Jai generation. Only then did she remember that now was not the time to think about this. It was better to quickly break the array. This fellow hurriedly started to seduce the black bead. It was not enough for this fellow to feel that bringing people out was not enough to appease her hatred. She had to get some benefits. Thus, she said to Master Li, Amitabha. Martial uncle, I am the reincarnation of the Buddha. This Sanskrit can't hurt me. Let me out. I have a way to break the array. Master Li thought that Yun Chuzhou had gone mad. And it was not light. Are you addicted to acting? Do you really think that you are the reincarnation of a Buddha? What exactly are you? Don't you know? Before Master Li could stop her, Yun Chuzhou had already squeezed out of the crack. Immediately, countless Sanskrit words rushed towards her. The two people standing beside Yun Chuzhou hurriedly struck her with their Buddhist lotuses. However, there were still a few Sanskrit words that struck Yun Chuzhou. Master Li's heart sank. It was over. Although it was only a few Sanskrit words, it would still cause damage to one's spiritual sense. This little girl had already gone crazy. Now, she would probably become a fool. However, he was stunned to discover that Yun Chuzhou was completely fine. This fellow even reached out and pulled the Sanskrit that had surged over to the side, muttering, Amitabha, this penniless monk still has things to do, and I don't have time to play with you guys. Master Li, the others, was it because they were inexperienced, or was this troublemaker too abnormal? Not to mention Master Li and the others, even the faces of Master Xuanji and the others outside were stiff. Those were Sanskrit words that could attack one's spiritual sense, yet that lone was actually fine. And he even said that he was playing. The crowd that was watching the show immediately erupted. Did you see that? That lone little Buddha is really different. The Sanskrit words don't even attack him, and he even wants to play with him. It seems that the little lonely Buddha wasn't distracted before. He must have been enlightened by Buddha, and that's why he has such a supernatural power. You're right. When I go back, I will worship a little lonely Buddha at home. He will definitely bless me with peace, and bless my wife to give birth to a fat son. Go to hell. The little lonely Buddha isn't a child giving guanyin. Master Xuanzi's face darkened when he heard the crowd's words. However, he thought about it again. Although Lonely was not afraid of the Sanskrit attack, they still could not find the life gate and would still lose. Moreover, Lonely was not afraid of the Sanskrit attack, but the 9 people were. Moreover, Xian Hui and the others who had entered the Sky Net demon subduing formation set up by the Zen sect should be able to find the life gate soon. By then, the winner of the 3rd round would definitely be their bitter Zen sect. Although the big score was only 1-1, what would be the 4th round was still not up to their bitter Zen sect. Therefore, the final winner of the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly would definitely be their bitter Zen sect. With that thought, his expression eased up. At this moment, he heard the exclamations of the crowd. He quickly looked into the array of the Disha lotus formation. He saw Lone squatting on the ground with a pickaxe in his hand, digging a hole. Xian Zhi's expression suddenly changed. The place where Lone was digging was where the array disc was. What was he trying to do? Could it be that he wanted to dig out the array disc? How did he know where the array disc was? I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come inside the array formation, a Master Li and the others did not know what Yun Chuzhou was trying to do. All of them looked at her in confusion. Lonesome, what are you doing? Master Li asked. Panda's novel. The corner of Master Li's eyes twitched violently. This drama queen was completely immersed in her character. Buddha enlightened her. He had been a monk for so many years, but he had never been enlightened by Buddha. How could a fake monk like her be enlightened by Buddha? However, when Master Lei saw the Sanskrit text that kept pouring toward Yun Chuzhou, he decided to trust her this time. Therefore, he said, "Lonesome, you are in charge of striking the Sanskrit text with us. Let them dig it." Yun Chuzhou was naturally eager to dig the hole. It was not an ordinary tiring job, and the bitter Zen sect had buried the array disc unusually deep. Therefore, Yun Chuzhou used her body to beat the Sanskrit around like a little bee, so that the disciples of the silent generation could dig a hole. It was a pity that the talisman couldn't be used here, or it would save a lot of trouble. Gowei Butzao leaned on the boot and watched the show with great interest. At this moment, it felt that it was okay to do a good deed without leaving a name. At least it had gained freedom. If it was exposed, according to the wretched girl's character, once it angered her, she would definitely not let it out. Therefore, regardless of whether it was a person or a grass, one had to control their own fate. Outside the array formation, the faces of the people from the bitter Zen sect were very stiff. Although their array disc was buried very deep, due to the lack of time, it was not buried very deep. If this continued, it was estimated that the people of the Zen sect would soon dig out the formation discs. Master Liaowu caught a glimpse of the expressions of the people from the bitter Zen sect. His heart moved and he immediately understood. He secretly laughed in his heart. His disciple was still smart. This move was called cutting the firewood from the bottom of the pot. No matter what array formation it was, once the array disc was destroyed, the array formation would naturally be broken. Moreover, it was completely broken. However, yesterday this little girl said that she knew nothing about arrays. How did she suddenly find the location of the array disc today? Master Xuanji clenched his fists tightly. He could only hope that Xian Hu's side could break the array quickly. If that was the case, victory would still belong to them. However, when he saw the situation on Xian Hu's side, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Xian Hui and the others were certain that Master Lei and the others would not be able to break the array, so they deliberately dawdled. This was because as long as they did not step out of the array, the competition would not end. They could make Master Lei and the others more seriously injured. Yun Chuzhou had also guessed this point, so she did not directly choose to break the formation through the life gate. Instead, she chose to dig the formation plate. An hour later, the disciples of the silent generation finally dug a deep pit, and a part of the formation plate appeared inside. In the groove of the formation plate of the Disho Lotus formation, there were not spirit stones, but spirit stones. These spirit stones were extremely precious, thousands of times more precious than top-grade spirit stones. Only some special places could produce them. Yun Chuzhou wanted these psyche power stones. This guy shamelessly put all the psyche power stones in the groove of the disc array into his storage ring. This was a good thing. It could be used to feed Buddha's candle in the future. Buddha's candle sensed He Xingjia's thoughts and was extremely touched. It seemed that the little girl treated it quite well. The disc array relied on the psyche power stone to drive it. Now that the psyche power stone was put away by Yun Chuzhou, the disc array naturally stopped running. The surrounding scene also returned to normal. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. The Zen sect disciples cheered, and the onlookers were also laughing foolishly. They didn't care about the Zen sect or the bitter Zen sect, as long as the lonely little Buddha won. Master Xuanji and those people from the bitter Zen sect had ugly expressions, especially when they watched Yun Chuzhou steal all the psyche stones in the formation disc. Panda's novel. Xian Hui and the others inside still didn't know what had happened. Xian Hui asked in puzzlement, "What happened? What happened? Why did the array stop? Could it be that your Zen sect's array formation had a problem, so it stopped midway?" Those people behind him also followed with sarcasm and ridicule. It meant that the Zen sect didn't even set up the array formation clearly, so why would they compete with them? What a disgrace! Master Xuanji couldn't keep his face and shouted, "Shut up! We have lost this array competition." Xian Hui and the others couldn't believe their ears. What? They had lost. Those people from the Zen sect had broken the Disho Lotus Array. How could this be possible? This Disho Lotus Array was an ancient array formation. They had studied it for decades before they could figure out a way to break it. How could the people from the Zen sect have broken it? This was impossible. At this moment, someone saw the deep pit and was dumbfounded. Could it be that the Zen sect had dug out the array disk? So, the array was cracked. How did they know where the array disk was? Could there be a spy? Master Liaowu only felt a sense of relief. He had never been in such a good mood before. He pressed his palms together and said to Master Xuanji, Master Xuanji, we won the third round of the array formation competition. So, can the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly end? Master Xuanji gritted his teeth and said, we admit defeat since our skills are inferior. However, those psychokinesis stones belong to our bitter Zen sect, so we have to trouble Master Liaowu to ask him to hand them over. The corner of Master Liaowu's mouth twitched slightly when he heard Master Xuanzi's words. Hand it over. How could he hand over the thing in the hands of that troublemaker? The jade glass Bodhi leaf of their Zen sect was almost shaved bald by her, and she had only given them a dozen pieces. Therefore, Master Liaowu didn't say anything but looked at Hei Xinjiu who was standing behind him. Hei Xinjiu put her palms together and said, Amitabha. Master Xuanji, I don't understand what you're saying. Master Xuanji was already very angry because he had lost. Now that he heard her words, he became even angrier. He raised his voice and said, I say, hand over the Psyche stone of our bitter Zen sect. Yun Chuzhou looked innocent. The Psyche stone of your bitter Zen sect? I didn't see it. Master Xuanji, this loan was lying through his teeth. He actually wanted to deny it under everyone's watchful eyes. Loan, I saw every move you made in the array formation. You put all the Psyche stones in the Disho Lotus array disk into your storage ring, and now you want to deny it? Yun Chujia's expression became even more innocent. Is that so? Then you may have seen wrongly. What a joke, you still want to take back what was in her hands. No way. Pandas Novel's Kamian Chuzhou smiled faintly. Master Xuanji, this penniless monk played a small joke with you. I have indeed put away those spirit stones. However, this is a method to break the array. If I don't keep all the Psyche stones, how can the Disho Lotus array be broken? We didn't stipulate beforehand that we are not allowed to take the Psyche stones in the array disk. So, is it appropriate for you to ask me for them now? I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Moreover, I have already restrained myself. Originally, I planned to keep the Disho Lotus array disk as well. Master Xuanji was almost angered to death by Hei Xinjia's unreasonable arguments. According to what she said, he should thank her for not taking away the formation disk, right? He was about to fly into a rage when he heard Yun Chuzhou continue, Master Xuanji, as the saying goes, one must admit defeat when one is willing to bet. Are you going to make things difficult for this penniless monk because you've lost? If you can't afford to lose, just say it. If you admit that you can't afford to lose, he'll return the psychokinesis stone to you. The crowd that was watching the show started to clamor. Those stones were dug by lonely little Buddha with his own ability. Who told you bitter Zen sect to bury them so lightly? Serves you right. That's right. If you can't afford to lose, then just say that you can't afford to lose. The second round was already won by the Zen sect. If you insist on shamelessly calling it a draw, now you're bullying lonely little Buddha. Lonely little Buddha is too pitiful. Little lonely Buddha, don't be afraid, we all support you. No one can take away those psychokinesis stones. Master Xuanji was about to explode from anger. Why did these words go around and around, but the logic went to this lonely side? Also, could these onlookers be this lonely child? Why were they so biased towards him? When Master Liaowu saw that Master Xuanji was about to die from anger, he was secretly pleased. Damn it! It'll piss you off to death. His good disciple was indeed powerful. With just a few words, he had angered this old man to death. Although Master Liaowu was secretly happy, he said, "Master Xuanji, what Lone said makes sense. The array board is also inside the array formation, so this matter is not Lone's fault. I think we should just forget about it." Master Xuanzi's eyes were bloodshot. He wanted to turn hostile, but in the end, he said coldly, "I didn't expect that the Zen sect would act like this. Well, just pretend that I didn't mention this matter." Seeing him like this, Master Liao's heart tightened. This Xianji didn't seem like someone who would swallow his anger, but he actually swallowed it. He probably had a backup plan. Yun Chuzhou had the same thought. She was indeed greedy, but she did this to test Xianji. Now that she looked at it, the bitter Zen sect definitely had a backup plan. However, no matter what backup plan he had, he would just deal with it as he saw fit. Seeing that both sides had no objections, Master Defeng announced the final result of the competition. The Zen sect won 2-0. The 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly was over. Naturally, the crowd would not stay on Mount Buddha. The Lan family, Mu family, and other major forces came over to exchange some pleasantries and left with their own people. The Zen sect people also left under the lead of Master Liaowu. Because the area near Mount Buddha was closed to flying, the crowd could only walk. Yun Chuzhou took out a voice transmission talisman as she walked. "Yuan Ji, you did well. I'll give you the money to hire the child minders after I return to the Lan family." The corners of this fellow's mouth curled up slightly. Many of those onlookers were the child minders that she had asked Yuan Ji to hire. Otherwise, why would he speak up for her? Although Yuan Ji was a person of blue dregs, she didn't have her own people now, so she could only make do with it. Fortunately, after this matter was over, the old fox of the Lan family would assign 500 people to her. By then, it would be much more convenient to do things. Master Liaowu was afraid that the bitter Zen sect would set an ambush on the road, so his expression was somewhat solemn. After Yun Chuzhou put away the voice transmission talisman, she said with a smile, "Master, you don't have to worry. The bitter Zen sect will not set an ambush here. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Master Liaowu disagreed and said, "This is a no-fly zone. It's the best place to set an ambush. Master, think about it. This is the place where everyone must pass. Besides our Zen sect, there are also the Lan family and the Mu family. If the bitter Zen sect set an ambush here, wouldn't it offend all the forces? Unless they don't want to live anymore, they would set up an ambush here," said Yun Chuzhou. Master Liaowu was stunned. He thought what Yun Chuzhou said made sense and asked, "Then where do you think they would set up an ambush?" Yun Chuzhou took out the map, she pointed at a place and said, "There is an 80% chance that they would be here. Didn't you say that the bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall are in collusion? Therefore, the bitter Zen sect won't take action personally this time. The ones who set up an ambush here should be the people from the Divine Devil Hall. Lianshan Mountain Range? This is indeed a good place to set up an ambush. It forbids flying and the use of talismans. Moreover, the mountain is high and the forest is dense. It is also the place that we must pass when we return to the Zen sect," Master Li said from the side. Master Liao's expression became more and more serious. He gathered a few elders to discuss countermeasures. There were only 3 ways to discuss this. The first way was to take a detour, but it would take about 5 days. Panda's novel. The third way was to force their way through without making any adjustments, but the risk was very high. Yun Chuzhou giggled. "We don't need these 3 methods. This penniless monk has a brilliant plan." Everyone looked at her. Ji Kong and Ji Su saw the smile on Yun Chuzhou's face and thought that this guy was going to play dirty again. Master Liaowu asked, "What brilliant plan?" Chapter 52-22 Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. "This plan of mine is amazing. To put it mildly, it's called borrowing strength to fight, and to put it simply, it's called borrowing strength to fight a white wolf with bare hands. Everyone, Master Liaowu asked with a stiff face, how? No, what I mean is how to borrow strength. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, we are not a match for the Divine Devil Hall and the bitter Zen sect, but we can gather more people and let the Divine Devil Hall's tigers bite the hedgehogs and have nowhere to bite. Gather more people? Are you asking for the help of the Lan family and the Mu family? This wouldn't work. Those aristocratic families were very smart and wouldn't get involved in this mess. Moreover, the Mu family, Qi family, and Zhuang family were in collusion with the Divine Devil Hall, so how could they help us? Master Liaowu felt that Yun Chuzhou was a little whimsical. Yun Chuzhou chuckled. Her smile was sinister and treacherous. Master Liaowu couldn't help but take a step back. This mischievous laugh was really scary. Master, the so-called bustling of the world is all for profit, the bustling of the world is all for profit. If there is a huge profit, not to mention colluding with the Divine Devil Hall, even if the Divine Devil Hall is his father, he will jump into the pit willingly. Everyone, although these words were a little crude, they were not rough. However, where was the huge profit? Yun Chuzhou did not continue to keep them guessing. She said, although the 10,000 Buddha's Dharma assembly has ended, most of the people have not gone far. We will spread a piece of news right now. It will say that there will be a great treasure appearing in the Lianxing mountain range. As for this great treasure, there is no need to specify what it is. The more vague it is, the better. This will give people unlimited imagination. When the time comes, regardless of whether it is the four great families or the other forces, as well as those freelance martial artists, even if they are skeptical, they will still go and watch the show. After all, they do not know that the Divine Devil Hall has set up an ambush in the Lianxing mountain range, right? Even if they have guessed it, with so many people going, they are not afraid of offending the Divine Devil Hall. For the sake of benefits, they will also pretend to be ignorant and go there. When that time comes, the Lianxing mountain range will be filled with people. The Divine Devil Hall's people can only stare blankly and do not dare to attack us. When we leave the Lianxing mountain range, we can take the flying spirit tool and return to the Zen sect. We will infuriate them to death. Everyone's faces were filled with shock. They could do this. It was truly a wild goose chase. They did not match anything. They only needed to spread some rumors. Whatever spread the fastest, it would definitely be a rumor. But, how do we spread this rumor? It seems too late for us to hire people now, said Master Lei. Yun Chuzhou's smile became even brighter. There's no need to hire people. I have it ready. But, about the fees, Master, don't you have to pay a little? The corner of Master Liao's eyes twitched slightly, but then his heart moved. Thinking about the favoritism of those onlookers at the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly, he immediately understood. It seemed that among those people, there was this troublemaker who hired her. No wonder those people were so supportive of her. However, this was also good. With a ready-made candidate, the message could be spread faster. Thus, Master Liaowu looked at Yun Chuzhou. How much? Yun Chuzhou stretched out her two hands. There's no need for that. I'm not greedy. Just give me 10 psyche power stones. Just 10. Give me more and I'll be anxious. Master Liaowu was so angry that he snorted. Not greedy. 10 spirit stones was equivalent to 1,000,000 high-grade spirit stones. How could she not be greedy? How could she be greedy? Although Sect Master Liaowu felt a little pained, he still gave He Xinzhou 10 psyche power stones. This fellow was smiling so much that his eyelashes were about to blossom. He quickly took out his voice transmission talisman and sent a message to Yuan Ji, asking him to hire those people to spread rumors again, saying that there was a precious treasure in the Lianxing mountain range. Moreover, she specifically instructed Yuan Ji to be mysterious when he asked those people to spread rumors. Every time he said something, he would add something similar, "I've only heard about it. It might not be true. Don't take it too seriously. You must not tell anyone about this. Heaven and earth will know about it. I'll only tell you about this. You must not tell anyone else." Yun Chujo was too familiar with human nature. The more she refused to tell, the more some people could not hold it in and would tell others. Moreover, the more ambiguous it was, the more people could imagine it and believe it. Moreover, some people might not be really looking for treasures, but just to join in the fun. They believed that things would be very interesting. In order to make it more realistic, Yun Chujo especially let Ji-soo act out a scene. Ji's butt injury was almost healed, but he still felt a little uncomfortable walking fast, so he fell behind the team. Ji-kong and the others kept urging him to be faster, so Ji-soo shouted, "What are you rushing me for? I'm injured, can't I walk slower? Seriously, it's like a house on fire, what's the hurry? Isn't it just lonely?" Saying that Lianxing mountain range, Ji-soo suddenly covered his mouth as he said this. He glanced at the passers-by around him and then limped to catch up with the Zen sect team. Although Jesus' voice was not particularly loud, many people still heard his words and immediately began to imagine it. "I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. It was the Lianxing mountain range again. And it was even mentioned by Lonely Little Buddha. Could it be that Buddha enlightened Lonely Little Buddha? Oh my, no wonder there were rumors that there was a treasure appearing in the Lianxing mountain range. It seemed to be most likely true. This treasure was ownerless. Whoever found it would own it. Those who did not go would be fools." Therefore, everyone spread the news. By the time the Zen sect people left the no-fly zone, many people had already heard of this secret. Although the people from the 4 aristocratic families were skeptical about this, and some even guessed that it might be the news spread by the Zen sect, people were greedy. For such a thing, they would rather believe it than not believe it. What if it was true? Therefore, they all followed behind the Zen sect's flying spirit tool and headed toward the Lianxing mountain range. Since this matter was so big, the people of the bitter Zen sect had naturally heard about it. Master Xuanji was so angry that he was twitching. He was very sure that the news must have been spread by the Zen sect. The purpose was to pass through the Lianxing mountain range safely. Wasn't it said that the people of the Zen sect were the most inflexible and inflexible? Why would they come up with such a sinister idea? Master Xuanji wanted to inform the people of the Divine Devil Temple who had set up an ambush in the Lianxing mountain range. Unfortunately, the use of talisman was prohibited in the Lianxing mountain range. The sound transmission talisman was useless. Master Xuanji could only inform the other contacts of the Divine Devil Temple to think of a way to send a message to the person who had set up the ambush. Then, he would bring his people to the Lianxing mountain range. Panda's novels come after a day, the Zen sect arrived at the Lianxing mountain range. Due to the ban on flying, they could only walk. On the way, the Zen sect deliberately slowed down their speed. Therefore, when the Zen sect and the others arrived, the Lan family arrived almost at the same time. Master Liaowu put his palms together and said to Master Lan and the others, "Everyone, did you also hear the news?" Master Lan and the others nodded one after another and began to chat with Master Liaowu. They more or less suspected that the news was spread by the Zen sect. However, when they saw that Master Liaowu did not look guilty at all, they could not help but have some doubts in their hearts. Could it be that this Lianxing mountain range really had an important treasure? While everyone was chatting, flying spiritual devices landed one after another. Among them was the flying spiritual device of the Zen sect of bitterness. Master Liaowu sneered in his heart. However, when he saw Master Xuanji coming down, he still stepped forward and wanted to say a few words of courtesy. After a day of adjustment, Master Xuanzi's mood had calmed down a lot. He looked like an accomplished monk. He had received the news from the Divine Devil Hall that the people ambushed by the Divine Devil Hall had retreated. The Zen sect was really good at scheming. However, it was not so easy for the Zen sect to retreat in one piece. He wanted to see how the Zen sect would continue to perform. Thinking of this, Master Xuanji sneered, "Master Liaowu, our bitter Zen sect happened to catch a few people, and these people are the source of the rumors. According to them, someone hired them to spread the news that there was a treasure in Lianxing mountain range, and the person who hired them was your Zen sect. How do you explain this?" Master Xuanzi's words immediately attracted the attention of many people. Everyone looked at Master Liaowu suspiciously. If what Master Xuanji said was true, then wouldn't they be fooled by the Zen sect? After all, Master Liaowu was the sect master of the Zen sect. He had seen a lot of storms. Naturally, he wouldn't be confused by Master Xuanzi's words. Master Liaowu sighed. "Master Xuanji, I know that you are unwilling because you lost the competition of the 10,000 Buddhist Dharma Assembly, but you shouldn't throw dirty water on our Zen sect. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come, only when there is a motive will there be action. Tell me, why did our Zen sect do this? What benefits does this have for our Zen sect?" Master Xuanji was choked by the question. He could not say that the bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall had discussed it and that the Divine Devil Hall's people were going to ambush the Zen sect in the Lianxing mountain range, right? However, he quickly found an excuse. "I don't know about this. These are the words of those who were captured. Men, bring those people up." Immediately, the Zen sect disciples brought a few people up. Those people begged for mercy. These are the words of the Zen sect disciples. "We have no choice." Yes, and that lonely little Buddha was also asked by the Zen sect to lead the public opinion. In fact, we don't believe that he is a Buddha at all. Panda's novel. Calm Master Liaowu couldn't help but feel a little uncertain. Could these people be the people that Yun Chuzhou hired? This was bad. However, he felt a little relieved when he saw Yun Chuzhou's calm expression. Even if these people were really hired by Yun Chuzhou, they didn't have any real evidence and just refused to admit it. "Master Xuanji, how can you accuse us with just a few people? This is too ridiculous." Master Liaowu sneered. Master Xuanji also sneered, "Right and wrong are at the heart of the people. I believe that everyone has their own judgment. Your Zen sect has always considered yourselves as a noble sect. I didn't expect you to use such a low-class method." When the crowd heard Master Xuanzi's words, they looked at Yun Chuzhou with a complicated expression. Let's not talk about whether these people were real or not. Now that they recalled the 10,000 Buddha's Dharma Assembly, some of them seemed to be very happy. They were all talking to Lonesome. Was he really the one who hired them? Were they all fooled by him? At this time, Yun Chuzhou smiled faintly. "Amitabha. Almsgivers claimed that the disciples of our Zen sect hired you. Then, which disciple hired you?" The eyes of those people flickered a few times. One of them said, "The person who hired me wore a mask. I didn't see his face clearly." Panda's novel. That person stammered, "Because he is bald, and he is wearing a Buddhist bead." Yun Chuzhou's smile grew deeper. "Bald, and he is from the Zen sect with a Buddhist bead? It seems that the people of the bitter Zen sect also dress like this, right? Why do you think that it is the people of the Zen sect who hired you? Also, your words are somewhat contradictory. Since the person who hired you doesn't want to expose his identity, why did he purposely let you see his baldi and Buddha beads? Could it be that he is a fool?" That person was rendered speechless by Yun Chuzhou's few questions and did not say a word for a long time. Yun Chuzhou sighed. Sigh. This penniless monk has never been a person who fakes for fame. If this penniless monk cares about these false reputations, why do I have to hide in the 1,000 Buddha cave all the time? The reason why this penniless monk had followed Master and the others to participate in the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly was also because the Buddha had enlightened them and wanted to distribute the Buddha lotus water. Who would have thought that he would now suffer such slander and criticism? Forget it, this penniless monk doesn't care about these things at all. You can say whatever you want. As the saying goes, those who are clear will be clear, and those who are muddled will be muddled. Regardless of whether it is this penniless monk or the Zen sect who are doing the right thing and doing the right thing, there is no need to waste time on these things. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she did not interrogate those people anymore. Instead, she said to Master Liaowu, "Master, let's continue on our journey. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Sometimes, the best way to deal with gossip was not to deal with it. As time passed, it would naturally fade away. Master Liaowu shook his head with a bitter smile. He no longer paid attention to Master Xuanji and ordered the Zen sect disciples to continue on their journey. The crowd of onlookers thought about what had just happened and could not tell who was telling the truth. Therefore, they decided to follow the Zen sect people into the Lianxing mountain range to have a look. Since they were already here, what if it was true? Master Xuanji thought that the Zen sect would definitely incur the wrath of the crowd after such a disturbance. In the end, that lone managed to pull the Zen sect out with just a few words. He was really sharp-tongued. However, he did not intend to give up just like that. The seeds of suspicion had already been planted. When the crowd could not find anything, he would fan the flames again. He did not believe that those people would still be so calm. Hence, Master Xuanji brought the people from the Zen sect of bitterness and followed closely into the Lianxing mountain range. As the name implied, the Lianxing mountain range had the shape of a musical instrument sheng. The mountain peaks were undulating, with strange rocks and craggy rocks. The road was very difficult to traverse. Even for these cultivators, their speed was not very fast. In addition, some people came here with the intention of searching for treasures. They searched around, and their speed became slower and slower. Almost everyone was searching around. The Zen sect people did not want to be too abrupt, so they slowed down their pace and pretended to knock around. Chapter 52-26 stabilizes the characters. Setting. Master Xuanji looked at them coldly and sneered in his heart. This Lianxing mountain range didn't even have a few high-level herbs, let alone valuable treasures. It would be a miracle if they could find any treasures. After leaving this Lianxing mountain range, he had to prove that the Zen sect was guilty of spreading rumors. He had to make them the target of public criticism so that they could attack the Zen sect in the future. At first, it was still fine. Everyone searched around for treasure, but after half a day, they did not find anything valuable. Some people began to complain. There is indeed nothing here. It seems that Master Xuanji is right. Maybe the rumor was spread by the Zen sect. But, why did the Zen sect spread the rumor? What good is it to them? Look, not only is the Lianxing mountain range prohibited from flying, but they can't use talisman seals. Maybe the Zen sect is afraid of danger, so they dragged us along with them. It's really wicked. It can't be, right? I think the Zen sect and lonely little Buddha don't look like such a person. Humph. You know people, but you don't know people. Moreover, Ji Su didn't say lonely, said Lianxing mountain range, half-heartedly. He deliberately misled us. Yun Chujia's heart skipped a beat when she heard these rumors. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have let Ji Su act. It seemed like she was overdoing it. Although she could think of a way to remedy the situation after she got out, the effect wouldn't be too good. It would be best if she could really find some treasure in Lianxing mountain range. However, there was nothing in this lousy place. How could there be any treasure? Ouch! Because this guy was too focused on his thoughts, he did not notice that there was a protruding rock under his feet. He almost tripped and fell. This guy was so angry. If it were not for the fact that she had to maintain the image of lonely little Buddha, she would have smashed this damn rock into pieces. Ji Su saw that Yun Chujio almost fell down and quickly asked, "Junior brother Lonely, are you okay?" Although Hei Xinjiu was annoyed, she said, "I'm fine. It's just that this stone," Hei Xinjiu's words came to an abrupt end because this guy realized that the stone that almost tripped her was not an ordinary stone. There were actually patterns on it. Yun Chujio did not care about the dirt and used her sleeve to wipe off the soil on the surface of the stone. After seeing the patterns on it clearly, her little heart thumped non-stop. She had seen this pattern before and it was exactly the same as the stone slabs laid on the streets of Supreme City. How could there be such a stone here? Only then did Yun Chujo notice that this stone should only reveal a corner, and if it was dug out, it should be a bluestone slab. Yun Chujo was hesitating whether to dig out this bluestone slab, and there were already quite a number of people gathered around her. Someone who had entered Supreme City immediately exclaimed, This pattern is actually the same as the patterns in Supreme City, could it be that there's a treasure underneath? With his shout, more and more people gathered. Yun Chujo thought to herself, who cares if he has a treasure or not? With this green stone slab, she could shut Master Xuanzi's mouth. She had to admit that her luck was not bad. She could find something good just by tripping over it. Therefore, this guy said calmly, Everyone, be quiet. As the saying goes, those who see it will have a share. If there really is a treasure underneath, this penniless monk and the Zen sect will not keep it all for themselves. As soon as these words left his mouth, this fellow's character, which had been somewhat destroyed previously, once again stabilized. He wanted to see lonely little Buddha's luck. He had casually found this bluestone tablet, and he was not greedy for money. How could such a kind person hire a child? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 52-27, The Delightful Gowei Batsao. At this moment, Master Liaowu and the others also gathered around and asked a few simple questions. Then, they got Ji Kong and the others to start digging up that green stone slab. Everyone looked at it nervously. Naturally, what they wanted was not this green stone slab. Since this green stone slab was the same as the one in the Supreme City, perhaps there was an ancient ruin underneath it. It was something from the ancient times. Even if it was just a random item, it would still be a good thing. Yun Chujo was slightly distracted. When she thought of the Supreme City, she thought of Yun Qi and Rui Er. Then, she thought of the last part of the Emperor Shin's sentence. What did he want to say about Yun Qi? Also, what secret did he want to say about the ancient Mesozoic era? By the time Yun Chujo regained her senses, Ji Kong and the others had already dug out that green stone slab. However, other than that green stone slab, there was nothing else. The group was unwilling to give up and began to dig nearby. Not to mention, there were people who dug out similar bluestone slabs one after another. However, most of them were dilapidated. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Even so, the group was still very excited. This was enough to prove that this place was definitely an ancient ruin. Perhaps there would be good things down there. Hence, the digging became even more intense. Unfortunately, after digging for a few hours, other than those green stone slabs, they didn't find anything else. Everyone couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. Now, it was a little useless. If they dug, they might not be able to dig anything. If they didn't dig, they wouldn't be satisfied. Master Liaowu was afraid that it would be too late, so he ordered the Zen sect disciples to continue on their journey and not to stay here. When everyone saw that the Zen sect people had left, they could only dejectedly follow them. After all, there were quite a number of demonic beasts in the Lianqing mountain range. If they were left alone, it would be easy for them to get into danger. Yun Chujo walked for a while and thought for a while. Then, she turned back and put away the green stone slabs. Although these things were not valuable, the patterns were still quite nice. It would be nice to build a kennel for dog too. Seeing this, no one said anything, because everyone knew that the green stone slabs were not valuable. Half a day later, the crowd left the Lianqing mountain range. Although they did not find any treasure, because they found the green stone slabs, they put aside the rumors from before. Master Xuanji knew that it was useless to bring it up again, so he simply did not say anything more. He only looked at Yun Chujo with an exceptionally fierce gaze. Yun Chujo did not care at all. What a joke. If her gaze could kill, her grave grass would probably be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. After some small talk, everyone set off. One day later, the Zen sect returned to the Zen sect. The moment the flying spiritual device landed, the Zen sect finally felt at ease. Although this trip had been full of twists and turns, the result was good. Even if the bitter Zen sect really wanted to attack the Zen sect in the future, their Zen sect had already taken the moral high ground, so they were not afraid of them. Yun Chujiu originally wanted to directly ask Master Liaowu about her parents, but because she had been out for many days, the Zen sect had many things that needed Master Liaowu to deal with, so Yun Chujiu had to return to her residence first. Anyway, if she ran away, the monk would not be able to run away from the temple, so she was not afraid that Master Liaowu would not keep his word. After this guy returned to his residence, he washed up and began to lie on the bed to catch up on his sleep. Gowei Butsao sneakily climbed out of his boots. He jumped on the ground a few times, ha! It was time for him to move freely. He left the wooden house and jumped into the still spring. He waved the grass leaves and swam for a while, then floated on the still spring to bask in the sun. He felt that this small day was simply wonderful. If only he had Xiao Mogu to accompany him. Ahem, what he meant was that with such a tall and elegant grass patch, he needed a maid to serve him, right? Chapter 52-28, One Day as a Teacher, One Lifetime as a Father. Yun Chujiu slept until sunset. She left the wooden house and began to cultivate beside the still spring. In fact, the still spring did not have much effect on her. She just felt that the scenery here was not bad, so she chose to cultivate near the still spring. The Gowei Butsao floating in the still spring slipped into the water, sneakily swam to the other side, and then jumped onto the shore. This fellow had never been discovered, so it was getting bolder and bolder. After it jumped onto the shore, it placed a leaf on its waist and pointed a leaf at Yun Chujiu while cursing silently. "You black-hearted brat! You deliberately isolated Xiao Mogu and me. As expected, you are the most vicious woman. You heartless ingrate. Luckily, I saved you so many times. You don't even know how to let me out for a walk." Yun Chujiu, who was cultivating, seemed to have sensed something. She suddenly opened her eyes and looked in the direction of Gowei Butsao. Gowei Butsao was almost scared to death. Fortunately, there were many flowers and plants growing on the ground where it was. Yun Chujiu saw that there was nothing unusual, so she closed her eyes again to cultivate. Gowei Butsao kept touching its flower spikes with its leaves. Touching its fur did not scare it. It was scared to death. It seemed that she had to be more careful in the future. This stupid girl was too smart. Yun Chujiu had no idea that Gowei Butsao had performed a great show. She cultivated for a while, but she couldn't calm down because she kept thinking about the person behind the scenes who imprisoned her parents. In the end, she simply gave up on cultivating and turned around to enter the wooden house. Gowei Butsao saw that Yun Chujiu had entered the wooden house, so it sneakily jumped out from the bushes and jumped into the still spring again to show off. The next morning, Yun Chujiu woke up early and saw Master Liaowu. At this time, Yun Chujiu had already recovered her original appearance. When she saw Master Liaowu, she smiled and said, "Master, this disciple greets you." Master Liaowu's feelings were a little complicated. There was awkwardness, helplessness, and a little disappointment. If only he had a disciple like Lone. Not only was he proficient in Buddhism, but he was also extremely intelligent. Unfortunately, he was a fake disciple that did not exist. He waved his hand. "Since you have already recovered your appearance, there is no need to mention the matter of master and disciple." Yun Chujiu's expression became serious. "Once a master, always a father. Regardless of whether master recognizes me as a disciple or not, you are still my master." Master Liaowu really did not expect Yun Chujiu to say such words. For some reason, his eyes were a little moist. Although this little girl was a little mischievous, her nature was very kind. However, he was a monk. There was no reason for him to accept a little girl as his disciple. Master Liaowu thought of this and did not continue Yun Chujiu's words. Instead, he changed the topic. You came to find me because you want to ask about your parents, right? Yun Chujio nodded. It did not matter whether he recognized her as his disciple or not. Yes, she would be fine as long as she recognized him. Master Liaowu pointed to the seat next to him and said, "It's a long story. Please sit down. I will explain it to you in detail. Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." Yun Chujio didn't stand on ceremony and sat on the seat next to him. She looked at Master Liaowu with eager eyes. Master Liaowu let out a long sigh. This story has to start with your Yun family. I'm sure you also know that there is a branch of the Yun family's ancestral mausoleum that guards the mausoleum, right? Yes, I have always felt that something was wrong with them. Could it be that this matter really has something to do with them? Yun Chujio asked curiously. Chapter 52-29 The Spirit Guardian of the Yun family's ancestral tomb. Master Liaowu nodded. That's right. They aren't really a branch of the Yun family, but a secular force of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Yun Chujio was confused. The 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall? A secular force? Where did that come from? Seeing her blank expression, Master Liaowu explained, there are 3,000 continents, big and small, and each continent has a different level. The Divine Enlightenment continent where the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall is located is the highest level continent that I know of. As far as I know, the Divine Devil Temple that you have always been afraid of is also based in the Divine Enlightenment continent. Yun Chujio was not surprised that there was a higher level continent on the Heavy Cloud continent, because she had guessed that the headquarters of the Divine Devil Temple was not on the Heavy Cloud continent. However, why did the so-called 10,000 Buddha's temple sacrifice a part of their people to disguise as a branch of their Yun family? Moreover, they were in charge of guarding the mausoleum. Master Liaowu continued, you should also know that 10,000 years ago, the human race and the demon race once engaged in a great war. At that time, the human race was able to win, and the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall played a decisive role. However, although the demon race was defeated, they were not exterminated. Instead, they retreated back to the continent they were on. Before they retreated, they left behind quite a number of remnants. These remnants lurked in various continents, waiting for an opportunity to attack again. Master Liaowu took a sip of tea and continued, although those remnants of the demon race can bring some trouble, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall did not take them to heart. What they were truly afraid of was the higher-ups of the demon race at that time. Those higher-ups died on the spot during the great battle, but the demon race, in a sense, is undying and indestructible. After 10,000 years of recuperation, they once again entered the cycle of reincarnation. Yun Chujio nodded. She had encountered some demons before, and they were indeed the same as what Master Liaowu had said. Those demons were quite conceited because they were immortal. Death was only temporary. As long as the negative emotions of humans existed, they would form again, but it would take a very long time. Master Liaowu paused again, as if he was in a difficult position about what he was going to say next. He took another sip of tea and then said, Master Liaowu, I have something to tell you. 10,000 years ago, an eminent monk of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall once predicted that a key figure of the demon race would be born in the Yun family. In order to identify him, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall set up an array formation in the Yun family's ancestral mausoleum. Once that person appeared, the array formation would sense him. Yun Fengjin caused the abnormal changes in the ancestral mausoleum, which was why he was sent to the Zen sect by the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Originally, Yun Fengjin was the only one who was sent to the Zen sect. However, unexpectedly, the floating cloud mountain that Yilan was imprisoned near the Yun family's ancestral mausoleum also caused the changes in the ancestral mausoleum, therefore, he was also sent to the Zen sect by the people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Yun Chujio's heart shook. Caused the changes in the ancestral mausoleum? She seemed to have encountered the abnormal changes as well. However, due to the black bead's reminder, she left the ancestral mausoleum in time. She still remembered the probing gaze of Yun Fengde, the guardian of the ancestral mausoleum. She guessed that he was suspicious of her, but she couldn't confirm it yet. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, she still had one more question, so she asked, Master, I don't understand one thing. My father should have gone to the ancestral mausoleum to pay his respects before, so why hasn't there been any abnormality before? Master Liaowu didn't correct her address. He shook his head and said, I don't know the specific details. Master, since my parents are demons, why didn't the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace kill them directly? Why didn't they escort them to the divine enlightenment continent? Why did they imprison them in the Zen sect instead? Yun Chuzhou asked in confusion. Chapter 5230 was all a ploy. I don't quite understand either, but my guess is that although your parents are suspected of being demons, they haven't transformed into demons yet. If the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace kills them, they should be afraid of the consequences. On the other hand, your parents' spiritual power level was too low, and the spiritual energy on the divine enlightenment continent where the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace is located is extremely dense. If your parents were taken to the divine enlightenment continent, they would probably explode and die, Master Liaowu said with uncertainty. Hearing this, Yun Chuzhou sneered in her heart. The people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace were really hypocritical. They had imprisoned her parents just because of a so-called suspicion. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Perhaps the spiritual energy on the divine enlightenment continent was one thing, but more importantly, they wanted to transfer the karma to the people of the Zen sect. In this way, even if her parents made a mistake or were caught by mistake, the karma would only fall on the people of the Zen sect, and it had nothing to do with the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Moreover, she felt that there were more than just the two reasons. There should be one more crucial reason. Once the demon race made a comeback in the future, her parents would be the best hostages. After all, their identities in their previous lives were very likely to be very prominent in the demon race. What benevolence, justice, and morality were actually all schemes. Seeing Yun's cold expression, Master Liaowu didn't know what to say for a moment. After all, he also knew that anyone would be dissatisfied if they were locked up just based on a groundless guess. Master Liaowu hesitated for a moment and then said, Benefactor Yun, you have rendered meritorious service to our Zen sect. I would like to advise you that a giant like the 10,000 Buddha sacred palace is not something you can provoke. Just pretend that you didn't hear anything. Don't worry. Although your parents are imprisoned, I have not mistreated them in any other way except for the lack of freedom. Although Yun Chuzhou wanted to rebuke Master Liaowu, she still endured it. The main culprit was the 10,000 Buddha sacred palace. It was useless for her to vent her anger on Master Liaowu. Moreover, she had no way to save her parents for the time being. She still had to rely on this old monk to take care of her parents. She could not fall out with him. Hence, Yun Chuzhou nodded. Master, don't worry. I will not act rashly. Master Liaowu was skeptical of her words. However, after thinking about it, even if she wanted to do something, she did not have the ability. Therefore, she said, It's good that you've thought it through. You've made a great contribution this time. It'll bring you to see your parents later. Thank you, Master. However, there's something I don't understand. Listening to your words, since the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall asked the Zen sect to help imprison my parents, they should be protecting the Zen sect. Then, why are you still afraid of the bitter Zen sect? Master Liaowu smiled bitterly and said, whether it's the Zen sect or the bitter Zen sect, they're all ants to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. No matter which side wins, they have to listen to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, so they won't interfere. Yun Chuzhi's heart was in a mess, so she didn't ask any more questions. She just followed Master Liaowu and the others to the forbidden area and saw Yun Fengjin and his wife again. However, she could see them, but they couldn't see her. Yun Chuzhou knelt on the ground and kowtowed, swearing in her heart, Father, Mother, little Jiu will definitely save you, definitely. Although she knew that whether it was a behemoth like the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall or the remnants of the demon race that would attract tens of thousands of people to crusade against them, it was still an insurmountable gap for her. However, she believed that as long as she worked hard and persevered, there would eventually be a day when the clouds would rise to the sun. Chapter 52-31, I Never Lie. Master Liao Wu and the others looked at Yun Chuzhou and shook their heads and sighed. Although they couldn't bear it, since Yun Fengjin and his wife were likely to be reincarnated from the demon race, they couldn't be soft-hearted. Moreover, they couldn't afford to offend the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace. Yun Chuzhou felt that there was no need for her to stay in the Zen sect any longer. Her top priority was to increase her strength as soon as possible. At least when she returned to the Lan family, she still had Mount Meru to absorb the lightning. Therefore, she immediately bade farewell. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. However, she did not forget her original intention of coming here. She begged Master Liao Wu to help the Lan family at a critical time. Master Liao Wu readily agreed to this request. Whether it was public or private, helping the Lan family was beneficial to the Zen sect. Master Liao Wu hesitated for a moment before asking, Almsgiver Yun, how is the recovery of the Buddha's candle? The breaking dawn bell and the Shiwan wooden fish. Yun Chuzhou sighed. The condition of the Buddha's candle was originally better, but it helped me kill Yuan Guang previously. I don't know if it's because it was stained with blood, but it went a little crazy again. I'll bring it back and slowly put things right. After it returns to normal, I'll let it nourish the daybreak bell and the sunset wooden fish. Master, don't worry. I never lie. If I nourish the daybreak bell and the sunset wooden fish, I'll definitely bring them to you. Master Liao Wu and the others looked at each other, indicating that they didn't believe him. They now understood that this troublemaker was an iron rooster. The things in her hands wouldn't be spat out at all. Master Liao Wu thought, forget it. I can't force anything. Let nature take its course. Moreover, if the bitter Zen sect and the Zen sect fought, he might have to ask this fake disciple for help. Therefore, he nodded. Alright, but I need to remind you that the bitter Zen sect was a branch of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, so the 5 treasures were also brought down from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall by the patriarch at that time. If you meet someone from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, don't reveal it, or you might attract unnecessary trouble. Yun Chuzhou nodded. Yes, your disciple knows. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou was a little perfunctory in agreeing, Master Liao Wu wanted to give her some advice. These 5 treasures were extremely precious even to the people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. Back then, it was by chance that they were brought to the Chongshao continent by the patriarch of the bitter Zen sect. However, on second thought, the people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall would not come to the Chongshao continent unless it was absolutely necessary. This little girl should not be able to meet them, so she did not say anything more. After bidding farewell to Master Liao Wu, Yun Chuzhou left on the Zen sect's flying spirit tool. In order to be safe, Master Li brought Ji Kong and the others to escort her away. Master Li saw that Yun Chuzhou's mood was a little depressed and explained, Almsgiver Yun, fate comes and goes, fate gathers and disperses, fate rises and falls and perishes. All of these are fated. Fate comes and fate is fated, fate goes and people take it from themselves. The seed is the cause, the harvest is the fruit, everything is created by the heart. Don't force everything, everything has a destiny. Yun Chuzhou raised her head and slowly and firmly said, Master Li, I have never believed in the so-called destiny. My fate is in my hands and not in the sky. Whether it is the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall or the divine devil hall, there will be a day when I will trample them under my feet. Master Li originally wanted to persuade Yun Chuzhou not to be so stubborn because he had overestimated himself. However, when he saw the determination in Yun Chuzhou's eyes, he could not say it out loud. At this moment, Ji Su, who was at the side, whispered, Benefactor Yun, I believe in you. Chapter 52-32 Jesus wishes. Master Li glared at Ji-Su and then said to Yun Chujo, "Since you have your own plans, I won't say any more. In short, be careful and don't be rash." Yun Chujo nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, Master. I'll remember it." Ji-Su found an opportunity and entered Yun Chujo's cabin. He scratched his head and said, "Benefactor Yun, what I said before is true. I believe that you can do it. You can definitely save your parents." Previously, Ji-Su did not know about Yun Chujia's parents. However, Master Li was afraid that he and Ji Kong would be tricked by Yun Chujo, so he briefly told them about the matter. Yun Chujo smiled lightly and said, "Why do you believe me?" Ji-Su said matter-of-factly, "You took away the Buddha's candle without much effort and even turned the jade glass Bodhi tree into a baldi. You pretended to be a monk and became a lonely little Buddha. You even won the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly by yourself. Therefore, I believe that you can do whatever you want." Yun Chujo looked at Ji's serious face and said with a smile, "Senior brother Ji-Su, do you have any wishes?" Ji-Su rubbed his chin and laughed. "I don't have any lofty aspirations. I just want to cultivate well." Yun Chujo pouted. "Senior brother Ji-Su, don't you know that you always rub your chin every time you lie?" Ji-Su choked and laughed dryly. "My original wish was really to cultivate well and follow my master's life step by step. However, ever since I participated in the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly and heard about your parents, I have a wish. Forget it, it's impossible to achieve. I won't say any more." Yun Chujo didn't say anything. She just looked at him with a smile, which made Jesus' hair stand on end. He gritted his teeth and said, "Forget it. Just say it. If you want to laugh at me, then laugh at me. My wish is to enter the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. It would be best if I could become the leader of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall." "Why?" Yun Chujia's expression didn't change as she asked. "Humph. You've seen it yourself. Whether it's the bitter Zen sect or the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, they don't look like monks at all. Whatever compassion they have, they will feed it to the dogs. If I become the sect master of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, I will correct this evil trend and let those who practice Buddhism return to their original hearts." Ji-Su was a little embarrassed at first, but later his expression became serious. What he said was the truth. He originally thought that those who practiced Buddhism were the same as him, and they were all kind people who wholeheartedly believed in Buddhism. However, the successive events made him a little disappointed. It was all for the sake of benefits, and he had completely forgotten about the Buddha's heart. After hearing Jesus' words, Yun Chujo really looked at him in a new light. Ji-Su saw that Yun Chujo did not speak, and his face became even more embarrassed. "I know. You're laughing at me for overestimating myself. After all, I don't even have the qualifications to enter the 10,000 Buddha sacred hall, senior brother Ji-Su. As long as you stick to your original intention of helping all living things, you'll definitely become an eminent monk. Your wish will also be fulfilled," Yun Chujo said very seriously. Yun Chujo thought to herself, since Ji-Su trusted her so much, she would definitely help him fulfill his wish. Ji-Su scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. He said, "Let's not talk about this anymore. What are you going to do next?" Yun Chujo knew that he was deliberately changing the topic, so she did not expose him. "Of course I'm going to find a way to increase my strength. I'm too weak now. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 52-33, Let's Get Married. Ji-Su couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed when he heard Yun Chujia's words. In fact, Yun Chujo was now at the 8th level of the extreme spiritual realm, and her cultivation level was the same as his 8th level Black Lotus. It seemed that he had to hurry up and cultivate after he went back. The two of them chatted for a while more, and Ji-Su took his leave. As soon as Ji-Su left, Buddha's candle said smugly, "I have a way to make that little monk increase his cultivation level quickly, but he has to suffer a little." What way? Yun Chujo asked curiously. Let him eat a drop of my wax oil, and he can undergo purification. In the future, the speed of his cultivation of Buddhist power will be much faster. However, the process of purification is extremely painful. It's almost like being dismembered, Buddha's candle said loudly. Yun Chujo thought for a moment, then called Ji Kong and Ji Su into the cabin and told them what Buddha's candle said. Whether they were willing to try or not depended on themselves. Yun Chujia's personality was like this. If others treated her well, she would repay them greatly. Both Ji Kong and Ji Su treated her well. However, Ji Kong's personality was more reserved than Ji's. Therefore, as time passed, Ji Su became closer to her. Ji Kong and Ji Su did not hesitate at all. They were both willing to try. What a joke. Only a fool would reject such a good opportunity. It did not matter if it hurt a little. Cultivation was full of hardships to begin with. Yun Chujo immediately asked Buddha's candle to get 2 drops of wax oil. Buddha's candle said painfully, "These are the essence of my cultivation. You 2 brats are lucky." Ji Kong and Ji Su did not dare to say anything. They put away the wax oil and prepared to take it after they returned to the Zen sect. After they left, Buddha's candle started to claim credit. Little girl, if I didn't take the initiative to tell you, you wouldn't know about the wax oil at all. I have poured my heart and soul into you. Are you touched? Do you feel honored? Yun Chujo chuckled. Are you really doing this for my own good? Not for the Psyche stone. Buddha's candle choked. Damn it, this little girl was too smart. Nothing could be hidden from her. Buddha's candle indeed had designs on the psychic stone, but it also knew that if it asked for it directly, this iron rooster might not give it to it, so it took the initiative to bring up the matter of the wax oil. Anyway, this wax oil was the impurities from its cultivation, so it was useless to keep it. Of course, even if it was beaten to death, it would not tell Yun Chujo the truth. Yun Chujo did not continue to talk nonsense with Buddha's candle and directly threw it, a psychokinesis stone. Buddha's candle, could you be any more stingy? Forget it, it was better to have it than not to have it. Otherwise, if she was angered, there would be nothing left. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujo was in a daze for a while. She took out the voice transmission talisman and wanted to tell Di Biming about the recent events. Although she was not sure if she could successfully send it, she still wanted to tell him because her heart was very stifled. Although she never belittled herself, she knew that both the Divine Devil Hall and the 10,000 Buddha's Sacred Hall were too huge. Compared to them, she was as small as a grain of sand. However, before she could send the message, the voice transmission talisman started to vibrate. Yun Chujo thought to herself, she and the pretty boy really have a telepathic connection. She sent her divine sense in, and Di Biming's cold voice came from inside, Little Jiu, let's get married. Yun Chujo was stunned. Why did he suddenly bring up the matter of getting married? Didn't they say that they would wait until the matter of the Divine Devil Hall was settled before getting married? Chapter 52-34 Marriage. Then Yun Chujo really could not understand why Di Biming would suddenly mention marriage. Could it be because she had said that she had become a monk, so she was agitated? That did not make sense. She had already told him the truth. Logically speaking, he would not think otherwise. Could it be that something was going to happen again? She was at a loss and asked, "Have you recovered your memory?" "Yes." A certain lord's answer was as short as ever. "Didn't you say that you would wait for the God-fiend temple's matters to be settled before getting married? Why have you changed your mind?" Yun Chujo really could not understand what was going on, so she asked directly. "It's nothing. I just want to get married as soon as possible to avoid any unforeseen circumstances." Di Biming's tone was unperturbed, but Yun Chujo could hear a hint of anxiety in it. She frowned slightly. The gigolo must be hiding something from her. However, she did not plan to marry someone else, so let's get married. In case the gigolo was seduced by some flirtatious slut. Hence, she replied, alright, let's get married then. I'll wait for you in the imperial city. Okay. Yun Chujo pouted, what at Sundara? Yun Chujo kept the voice transmission talisman and pondered for a while, but she could not think of a reason for Di Biming to suddenly get married, so she decided not to think about it. Previously, the two of them were supposed to get married in the demon region, but they were interrupted when they were about to greet each other. She hoped that nothing bad would happen this time. The journey was very smooth. The flying spiritual device landed outside the imperial city. Yun Chujo invited a Master Lei to the Lan family's ancestral residence for a visit, but Master Lei declined politely, saying that he had something to do. Yun Chujo did not force him. After exchanging a few pleasantries, she watched as the Zen sect flying spiritual device left. Yun Chujo did not go back to the third branch of the Lan family first. Instead, she went to the ancestral home to see her ancestor. However, she never expected that she would meet Lan Luochen the moment she entered the ancestral home. Yun Chujo cursed in her heart. Didn't that old fox promise her not to let this blue dregs come back? Why did he come back now? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Lan Luchen's eyes lit up. Little Joe, big cousin, I'm in a hurry to go to the toilet. See you later. Hei Shinjo ran away as soon as she said that. She didn't want to talk to this piece of trash, lest his mental illness got worse. Lan Luochen watched Yun Chujo leave quickly, and his eyes became gloomy. A faint blue light flickered in his black eyes. He tightened his hands under his sleeves, and then turned around to leave the ancestral house. Little Joe, there will be plenty of time in the future. One day, you will stop for me. Yun Chujo ran to the study room of the Lan family's patriarch in one breath. Seeing that Lan Luochen did not catch up with her, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. The guy calmed himself down and shouted, Patriarch, I'm back. Come in. Hei Shinjo hurried into the study room and bowed politely. Patriarch, long time no see. You look better and better. The ancestor smiled and ignored the flattery. How was your trip to the Zen sect? Yun Chujo nodded. It was smooth. Very smooth. Master Liaowu promised me that the Zen sect would help us as long as the Lan family called for help. Besides, didn't the bitter Zen sect come out? The Zen sect also wants to make the Lan family an ally, so don't worry. The Zen sect will definitely be on our side. The old ancestor of the Lan family had long expected this, so he was not surprised. He asked a few more questions and then asked, do you know anything about the new lonely Buddha of the Zen sect? Chapter 52-35, I'm not familiar with Lone. Yun Chujo heard her ancestor's question and shook her head. Ancestor, I'm not familiar with Lone. The ancestor thought about it and realized that Lone had been worshipping Buddha in the 10,000 Buddhas cave. It was normal for this troublemaker to not be familiar with him. He sighed, I do think highly of Lone. He's calm and intelligent, but his cultivation level is a little low. At this point, the old ancestor suddenly thought of something and asked, why does that Lone know how to play the jade glass Bodhi leaf? Yun Chujo said calmly, didn't I tell Master Liaowu about the secret skill of the Fan Yin kill? I think that Lone figured it out himself. The old ancestor frowned. The thing that she gave to Master Liaowu was really the secret skill of the Fan Yin kill? The old ancestor couldn't help but have a trace of doubt in his heart. Could that Lone be the troublemaker in front of him? But on second thought, he felt that his idea was a bit absurd. After all, that Lone was a man, and he still had Buddha power on him. It was absolutely impossible for him to be the troublemaker in disguise. Yun Chujo saw the old ancestor scrutinizing her and found it funny in her heart. No matter how cunning this old fox was, he would never guess that she was the little lone Buddha. Therefore, this fellow had a magnanimous face and did not have the slightest bit of guilt. Seeing this, the old ancestor put down the trace of doubt in his heart. Yun Chuzhou thought of Lan Luochen whom she had just met and pouted. Old ancestor, didn't you say that within a year, Lan Dacha and Lan Luchen's eldest cousin would not appear in the Lan family? Why did I meet him at the door? I have something to arrange for him to do when I summon him back. Don't worry, he won't be back for a while. Moreover, from a selfish point of view, I won't agree to his marriage to you. The ancestor said. Yun Chuzhou immediately heaved a sigh of relief when she heard that. As for why the ancestor didn't agree to Lan Luchen's marriage to her, it wasn't within her consideration. She was about to marry a gigolo. Lan Dacha would marry whoever he wanted to marry. It had nothing to do with her. However, she did not plan to tell her ancestor that Di Baiming was going to marry her, in case there were any complications. The guy remembered the 500 people that her ancestor promised her. He immediately said with a smile, "Ancestor, I've successfully completed the mission." "The 500 people that you promised me?" Ancestor smiled and said, "I'll keep my words. I'll ask Elder Tua to accompany you to order some people later." Hei Xinjia's smile became even brighter when she heard that. She finally had someone under her command. If she fought with others in the future, she could gang up on them. Unfortunately, Lan Luoyen and the others were afraid. Otherwise, she could beat them up for fun. Ancestor saw that Yun Chujia's thoughts had flown away and waved his hand. "All right, you can go and find Elder Tua now." Hei Xinjiu immediately looked for Old Tua as though she was flying. Old Tua brought her out of the imperial city and arrived at a camp. The Lan family had tens of thousands of guards, so they could only camp outside the city for training. However, there was a formation set up outside the camp, so outsiders could not see or enter. After Yun Chuzhou entered the camp, she had a deeper understanding of the Lan family's power. The four great aristocratic families were indeed not to be underestimated. Even though the Lan family's power could no longer be compared to its peak, a 100-legged bug that was still alive was not something ordinary powers could compare to. Elder Tua brought Yun Chuzhou to meet the chief of the Lan family's guards, Zhu Chen. He took out the Lan family's ancestor's token and explained his purpose of coming. Although Elder Tua's status was not to be underestimated, in the Lan family's main camp, no one's words were effective. They only recognized the Lan family's ancestor's token. Yun Chuzhou was very satisfied with this. It seemed that the old fox was very good at managing his subordinates. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.